Hi students, welcome to lesson number 2, Research and Theory. Research and Theory lesson is going to give us an insight into the meaning, importance and role and relationship of theory to research. Research is an inquiry in the facts which contributes to the development of theory. Theory provides a conceptual model for research. Theory is the interrelated propositions which are formulated, used and reformulated in research. Let us examine the objectives of the lesson. 1. To study the meaning of theory. 2. To understand the interrelationship of theory and research. 3. To examine the importance of research and theory. Let us look into the meaning of research and theory. Research is search for knowledge. Research is closely related to theory. Theory is defined as a set of systematically interrelated concepts, definitions and propositions that are advanced to explain and predict phenomena. According to Jack Gibbs, theory is a set of logically interrelated statements in the form of empirical assertions about properties of infinite classes of events or things. A theory not only explains or predicts phenomena, but also specifies causal relationships among variables. A theory is defined as a set of systematically related propositions specifying causal relationship among variables. In science, theory is defined as a coherent set of hypotheses according to R.B. Braithwaite, which form a deductive system, that is, which is arranged in such a way that from some of the hypotheses follow. According to Arnold Ross' view, it is an integrated body of definitions, assumptions and general propositions covering a given matter from which a comprehensive and consistent set of specific and testable principles deducted logically. Conditions for theory. Outcome of the theories are the ideas. It goes to the extent where ideas conform to basic demands of proposition, formulation that determines whether or not they will assume the stature of theory. The conditions to be met by the set of ideas are: 1. They must be logically consistent and there must be no internal contradictions. 2. The ideas must be interrelated. 3. The statements must be exhaustive to cover the full range of variations concerning the nature of the phenomena in question. 4. The proposition should be mutually exclusive. The propositions must be capable of being tested through research. The set of ideas in social sciences generally fail to meet the above basic demands of theories. The frames of reference, perspectives or approaches are the general grouped configurations. Let us examine the components in the framework of theoretical ideas. There are few important components which form the base for the theoretical ideas in social science. They are: 1. There are assumptions and ideas which consist of untestable premises about the nature of selected aspects of social life. 2. The frames of reference identify the important dimensions of social life which is subjected to empirical scrutiny. 3. The abstractions like groups, motivations are the concepts. 4. The relational units of analysis which can assume designated sets of values. For example, educational status, income level are the variables. 5. There are statements which run in between or among the variables known as propositions. 6. Finally, the end product of all these components is called as a theory. Theory and facts. Fact is an empirically verifiable observation. A theory identifies the relationship between facts or orders them in a meaningful way. Theory and facts are interrelated. Facts are gathered at random, like counting people, walking on a road, etc. Cannot be produced a body of knowledge. When the related facts are gathered and examined, the development of science can take place. The various kinds of data to be gathered are indicated by theory. It offers a conceptual scheme for systematizing a phenomena. The facts are summarized as empirical generalizations and it predicts facts. Facts help to initiate theories. They also lead to reformulation of an existing theory. They cause the rejection of theories which do not conform to facts, and they clarify and modify theories. Theory and facts are two different meanings. They are the conceptual and empirical worlds. The conceptualization is used as a technique by the researcher to bridge the gulf between theory and fact. To explain the phenomena, theory uses the concepts. New concepts are developed to reformulate the theory when new facts invalidate a theory. The classification or typology is another technique used for bridging theory and fact. To impose an order on an imperfect structure of mass of facts, classification is attempted. Through the process of grouping, the interrelationship is traced. Classification is used by many scientists in disciplines as a tool of analysis. Karl Marx classified the society into haves and have-nots and showed that exchange benefits the former is the best example to understand classification. Let us examine theory and hypothesis. Before gathering the facts and empirical evidences, a hypothesis is formulated. Hypothesis deals with a narrow range of ideas. It is a preliminary assumption adopted for the explanation of phenomena. A theory is a generalization arrived at after verification, and it deals with a broader range of facts. It is one of the sources of hypothesis. The researcher transforms the assembled facts into constructs. The constructs are assembled into provisional hypothesis. It is designated as a scientific theory after testing and verification is found to be true. Theory is considered as law when it is tested and accepted by scientists as correct under the same condition. Role of theory in research. Theory has a great role to play in many ways. 1. Theory delimits the study. Theory helps to select a few relevant aspects of a phenomena through narrowing the range of facts to be studied. The facts may be studied from different angles. Every science discipline deals with a specific aspect of phenomena. Because of this, the discipline reduced to capable of controlling. Thus, theory relating to a discipline narrows the range of things which come within purview. For example, a cooperative unit is studied from different angles as an instrument for the promotion of the weaker section, or as a social organization, or as a democratic institution, or as a member unit of a federal structure. 2. Theory provides a conceptual structure for a study. All the sciences discipline is an organized body of facts. A structure interrelated concepts with precise definitions. A researcher selects a few facts from the theory and develops conceptual structure for their interrelationships. Conceptual schemata for the proper formulation of the selected problem, which is referred to as conceptual model. 3. The other function of theory is to summarize concisely what is known as about the object of study. Theorizing brings together the major empirical generalizations of an era. There will be changes in the structure of relationships between propositions. Scientists uses more acceptable theories rather than the older ones. It is through systems of propositions that our common statements are interpreted. Facts are seen as parts of framework rather than as isolated observations. Indian society is traditional and caste based hierarchy. It is an example. These statements are simple ones, but if we study them in depth, we may find that behind them there is a complex series of observations, a set of assumptions and a system of propositions. There are implicit or explicit facts or theory which gives us simple statements their full meaning. 4. Beyond the every observation, theory states a general uniformity. A person sitting under an apple tree observes apple falling on the ground, but beyond this observation, there is the general law of gravitation. This is referred to as uniformity. 5. The theoretical generalizations are used to predict facts. The most obvious is the extrapolation from the known to the unknown. For example, we may observe that in a modern civilized community, there is rational thinking. From this, we may predict that if modern way of life is introduced in traditional rural or tribal community, its superstitions and wrong belief systems would decline. 6. In research theory focuses on the areas which have not been explored. This is usually referred to as filling the gaps in knowledge. If a theory states that professionalization of any organization contributes to enterprise's success, we can see further facts might be sought. Contribution of research to theory. Research contributes to the development of theory. We have seen till now the relationship between theory and research is interactional. Let us examine the relationship between research to theory. Research always initiates theory formation. The findings of research lead formation of theories. Scientific experiments have led to the development of various theories in sciences. In the same way, in social sciences, research have contributed to the development of several theories. The researcher in the course of conducting research may fall upon unanticipated, anomalous and striking facts, which may lead to new theories. One important function of empirical research is to test hypotheses deduced from existing theories. If a hypothesis is not confirmed by research, the theory from which the hypothesis is deduced, it is re-examined and tested. Similarly, a theory does not fit into new findings of research. It is rejected and reformulated to encompass the new findings. For example, a person is motivated by personal economic needs to a new theory. Empirical research also focuses on the existing theory. When there is the ineffectiveness of any system, it can be understood in terms of social and cultural dimensions rather than its functioning. Researcher explores these dimensions by further study. It gives new focus on the theory of functioning social system. Any research cannot proceed on the basis of their theoretical meanings. For this, the purpose, the concepts which are drawn from theory have to be operationalized, that is to define with concrete empirical indicators, for example, community development through participation. Efficiency in organizational functioning can be clarified by researchers by constructing indices or scales for their measurement. Such clarifications and redefinitions lead to the discovery of new hypotheses. Thus, theories are made ready to test these hypotheses. Thus, theory and research may in separation distinctly operating, but they cannot be separated. In fact, they are complementary components of scientific endeavor. This statement is traced according to Bloomer. Herbert quotes that theory exercises compelling influences on research setting problems, holding the objects and leading to enquiry into asserted relations. Findings of the facts test theories and suggest new problems, inviting the formulation of new proposals. Thus, theory, enquiry and empirical facts are interwoven in a texture of operation, with theory guiding enquiry, enquiry seeking and isolating facts, and facts affecting theory. The interplay is the way by which an empirical science develops. Role of theory in research. The role of theory in research is studied in various aspects. 1. Theory suggests a problem for study. 2. It gives hypothesis to be tested. 3. It delimits the scope of the study by providing a conceptual model. 4. It helps in selecting the variables or identifying the classes of data to be collected. 6. It makes research findings intelligible. The research findings are used to formulate new theoretical propositions or testing an existing theory. Hence, there are many ways where theory is used in research. Some general principles are: 1. To conduct research, it is essential to have knowledge of the existing theory in one's areas of research. Without, the relevant theory becomes lost in it. Clear definitions or operationalizations of concepts which are crucial components of theory are essential to the designing of the study. Theories are viewed as hypothetical propositions and not as conclusive fact. In this way, researcher will be more alert to observations which poses challenge to the theory and thus be prepared to revise so that it is to fit in the empirical observations. Focus should be given on all odd and puzzling unexpected observations as they are a source of new theoretical approaches. Thus, it is clear that a researcher should use theory to plan and direct his lines of study, but use empirical observations to test and refine his theoretical propositions. The 6 main roles of theory for research. 1. Theory provides significant guidelines and traits for the conduct of research by pointing to areas that are most likely to be fruitful, that is, areas in which meaningful relationships among variables are likely to be found. If the variables come to be selected such that no relationships between them obtain, the research will be sterile no matter how meticulous the subsequent observations and inferences. A theoretic system narrows down the range of facts to be studied. Theory provides the researcher with a definite viewpoint, a direction which goes long way toward helping him inquire into relationships between certain variables selected from among an almost infinite array of variables. As Oppenheimer puts it, in order for us to understand anything, we have to fail to perceive a great deal that is there. Knowledge is purchased at the expense of what might have been seen and learned and was not. It is a condition of knowledge that somehow or the other we pick the clues which give us insight into what we have to find out about the world. As a storehouse of meaningful hypothesis, a fruitful theory suggests potential problems for study and thus ignites new investigative studies. In fact, a theory can be just productive to extent it can spark off a number of questions. A productive theory suggests potential problems, fruitful hypothesis and provides new perspectives. Einstein and Infield observed it is never possible to introduce only observable quantities in a theory. It is the theory which decides what can be observed. Only thus can the task of science be reduced mean manageability. Besides suggesting fruitful approaches to phenomena in the general area with which it is concerned, theory also provides leads for research in a different way. By suggesting other kinds of phenomena that may perhaps be understood or explained in the same general terms. Take the example of Cohen's theory of delinquent subculture. The cultural idea of Cohen's theory is that the delinquent subculture evolved by the working class juveniles is a response of these juveniles to deal with the problem of individual adjustment attendant upon the difficulty in meeting the criteria of status as prescribed by the middle class. The middle class standards which have been reckoned with. The delinquent subculture provides alternative criteria of status which these children can meet and thus helps them deal with the problem of individual adjustments. Cohen's theoretical formulation constitutes a generic approach to the understanding of how and why any subculture arises. Thus, such different subcultures as those emerging among different professional groups or social classes or small communities may be understood in the same terms. Research on such groups would concentrate on discovering the common problems of adjustment faced by the members and the ways in which the particular patterns of these subcultures help members to deal with them. In as much as theory summarizes known facts and predicts facts which have not yet been observed, it also points to areas which have not yet been explored. In other words, what gaps typically obtain in our knowledge. Needless to say, such gaps would not be visible if our facts were not systematized and organized. It is thus that theory suggests where our knowledge is deficient. A researcher's acquaintance with the existing theories helps him to select research problems that are likely to prove productive and worthwhile, and to avoid enquiries into problems that may provide sterile, yielding no insights. Formulation of worthwhile questions is an important step and a precondition to the extension of knowledge. Alerting oneself to the gaps in theory and fact increases the likelihood of formulating significant questions for research. 2. Another contribution of theory for research is in terms of increasing the meaningfulness of the findings of a particular study by helping us to perceive them as special cases of the operation of a set of more general or abstract statements of relationships rather than isolated bits of empirical information. A theory typically enhances the meaningfulness of research, since seemingly unrelated findings of isolated studies assume new meaning and significance when they are put into proper theoretical perspective. Let us take the example of observation by Durkheim that Catholics have a lower suicide rate as compared to the Protestants. As an isolated empirical uniformity, the finding would not add greatly to our understanding of suicidal behavior unless it conceptualized, that is, conceived of as an illustration of a linkage amongst abstractions of a higher order, example, Catholicism, social cohesion, unrelieved anxieties, suicide rate. This done, we are easily able to understand that what was initially taken as an isolated empirical finding of a relationship between religious affiliation and suicidal behavior is in fact a reflection of a much more general relationship between groups with certain conceptualized attributes, social cohesion and behavior of their members. This way, the scope of the original empirical finding gets considerably extended and several seemingly disparate findings can be seen to be the contextual manifestations of the general principle. Similarly, to take another example, the seemingly isolated finding that wives complain of heavy expenditure when the husband's relatives are in-house guests may be understood on a higher plane of abstraction to be an instance of the factor of emotional proximity or distance influencing perception. The scope of the findings thus enlarged. Other apparently disparate findings may be seen to be interrelated by means of theoretic thread. Example, the distorting effect of lack of confidence or morale on perception may be derived from the same theoretical orientation. As mental shorthand, theory summarizes relationships amongst variables in a conceptual framework. It is through establishing the theoretical pertinence of an empirical finding or uniformity that we can provide for the cumulating both of theory and research findings. To illustrate the empirical uniformities about differentials in the suicide rate, Land added confirmation to the set of propositions, the theory, from which they and other uniformities have been derived. This may be underlined as a major function of theory. 3. The linkage of the specific empirical findings to a more general concept has another major advantage. It affords a more secure ground for prediction than do these empirical findings by themselves. The theory, by providing a rationale behind the empirical findings, introduces a ground for prediction which is more secure than mere extrapolation from previously observed trends. Thus, if studies indicated a decrease in social cohesion among a community of tribals, the theory-oriented researcher would feel secure to predict increased rates of suicide in this group. On the contrary, the theoretic empiricist would have no alternative but to predict on the basis of extrapolation. The prediction may be concerned with estimating whether a relationship between two variables x and y, which has been observed in the past, will continue in future, or it may be concerned with estimating whether changes in certain conditions will lead to changes in observed relationship among the variables. To revert to our earlier illustration of delinquency, while Cohen points out that there need not be a direct link between understanding the cause of a phenomena and finding a cure, his theory nevertheless seems to suggest that a measure intended to reduce gang delinquency is likely to be successful to the extent that it either changes the standards by which working class students are judged in school and in community generally, or helps them to meet and prove equal to those standards. 4. Whereas an empirical finding as a proposition referring to certain concrete contextual manifestation of a phenomena does not afford a basis for drawing diverse inferences about what will follow, its reformulation or revamping in theoretic terms affords a secure basis for arriving at inferences about the varied positive consequences in areas quite remote from the central area to which the given finding relates. For example, the empirical uniformity that Catholics have a lower suicide rate relative to Protestants does not by itself suggest diverse consequences in fields of conduct apparently far removed from that of suicidal behavior. But once this uniformity is theoretically reformulated, obsessive behavior and other maladaptive actions may be seen to be related to inadequacies of group cohesion. Thus, the lower the degree of social cohesion, higher the rate of mental illness. The imaginative conversion of empirical uniformities into theoretic statements thus increases the fruitfulness of research through successive exploration of its implications or any empirical uniformity. Theory thus mediates between specific empirical generalization or uniformities and broad theoretical orientations anchored in the intellectual tradition. 5. In affording broader meanings to empirical findings, the theory also attests to their truth. A hypothesis is much confirmed by fitting it into a theory as by fitting it into facts, because it then enjoys the support provided by evidence for all the other hypotheses of the given theory. 6. Theory helps us to identify gaps in our knowledge and seek to bridge them with intuitive, impressionistic or extensional generalizations. As Karl Jaspers said, it is only when using methodologically classified sciences that we know what we know and what we do not. This way, theory constitutes a crucially important guide to designing of fruitful research. It can be concluded that research and theory are two sides of a coin. They cannot be separated, as we have studied in the lesson that theory guides research activity and research makes formulations of new theories. Theories enlighten the researcher the gaps in the research work, which also bridges the gap through future research activities. Thank you.